Hello everyone, I'm Dr. Leslie Kernisan, board-certified geriatrician and founder of the website betterhealthwhileaging.net. And this is the Helping Older Parents video podcast, where I cover the best ways to support aging parents and other older loved ones so they can live better lives in their later years. I also often address common caregiving concerns and dilemmas, like what to do if you're worried about an older person's memory or safety, how to deal with Alzheimer's and other forms of dementia, and how to help your older loved one get the care they need. In this episode, I'm going to talk more about something that's really relevant if you're dealing with memory loss or diagnoses such as Alzheimer's or dementia. And it's especially important if you're trying to figure out whether your aging parent needs more help or can keep living at home. And that is, how does memory loss usually affect an older person's ability to manage their activities of daily living, ADLs, and instrumental activities of daily living, IADLs. Now, in a previous episode, I explained what are ADLs and IADLs and why they are so useful and important to assess when it comes to aging adults. If you haven't yet seen that video, I'll post a link below. But briefly, ADLs are the basic self-care skills that we learn in early childhood. Things like walking, feeding yourself, dressing yourself, grooming, toileting, and bathing. And then IADLs are the more mentally advanced self-care skills we usually learn as teenagers, such as managing finances, grocery shopping and meal preparation, driving, home maintenance, medication management, and so forth. Now, most normal healthy adults are able to manage their ADLs and IADLs independently. But as we age, or if we get sick or injured, or if we develop certain types of chronic conditions, we can start having difficulty completing certain types of activities on our own. In geriatrics, we refer to this as functional impairment or functional decline. And it's something we really pay attention to, because when older adults start to experience functional decline, that threatens their independence and their ability to participate in their life. So we want to spot functional declines, figure out why they're happening, and reverse them when we can. And if they can't be completely reversed, we want to at least find ways to help the older person compensate. So for instance, if someone can't drive well anymore, we want to find other ways to help them get to where they need to go or want to be. Or if they're having trouble walking, we might consider a mobility device. In the rest of this video, I'll cover the most common ways that I see ADLs and IADLs affected by memory loss and thinking problems in aging adults. This way, you'll know what to look out for when it comes to your own aging parent with memory loss. Now, in a previous episode, I explained that the difference between mild cognitive impairment and dementia partly hinges on whether or not the memory problems or other thinking problems are bad enough to interfere with independence in daily life tasks. So these changes I'm describing could reflect early Alzheimer's or another form of dementia. However, if you're noticing these problems, keep in mind that you can't diagnose someone with dementia just because they're having these problems. And that's because there are many things that can cause memory or thinking problems in older adults. That's something I actually covered in my previous video on common causes of memory loss. Now, when it comes to memory loss and other forms of early dementia, such as early Alzheimer's disease, it's usually going to be the IADLs that are affected first. So let's start with that. As I've explained in my previous video, IADLs are skills we usually learn as teenagers, so most require some combination of organization, memory, or execution. This means that most of them can be affected by early dementia. Here are the most common ways that people with memory loss start to have trouble with their IADLs. Let's start with finances. Finances are often affected very early on. Common problems include unopened or unpaid bills, trouble making change, and uncharacteristic financial transactions, such as spending larger amounts than usual. Another IADL that is often affected early on is driving. Common problems include getting lost while driving, having difficulty at intersections, having trouble with parking, increased parking and traffic tickets, or difficulty managing public transportation. Let's now talk about shopping and meal preparation. Common problems when people have memory loss include lack of enough food or supplies in the house, and this might be because the person is forgetting to go to the store, or when they go, they don't get everything they need. It's also common for people to have difficulty organizing and motivating themselves to prepare meals. They might be burning food or leaving the stove on. They might be misusing other kitchen appliances, or they might be overspending online or at the store. Now, how about house cleaning and home maintenance? Common problems I see include the kitchen or house appearing messier or dirtier than usual, items in odd places, the yard becoming increasingly unkept. Let's now talk about managing communication, such as the telephone and mail. Common problems here include unopened mail, difficulty contacting the right person for a given circumstance, increased trouble with one's mobile phone or smartphone, forgetting to charge devices, and more trouble navigating one's computer. Last but not least, I want to touch on managing medications. Now, this IADL definitely gets affected by memory loss. That said, we also know that many cognitively normal adults struggle with medications because they can be hard to take correctly, especially when people are on multiple medications, which many older adults are. So I think this is the IADL where it can be a little harder to tell if people are having abnormal levels of difficulty or not. But obviously, people with memory loss struggle even more with their medications. Common problems include forgetting to refill prescriptions, taking medications too often or too little, being unable to tell others what medications are being taken, and having difficulty with as-needed medications, such as those prescribed to manage pain or other symptoms. In short, virtually any IADL can be affected by memory and thinking problems. Most older parents with memory loss will be struggling with at least a few of these, although their families may not notice unless they visit and observe closely how their parent is managing. So that's IADLs. Let's now talk about ADLs. So again, ADLs, the activities of daily living, are the skills we learn earlier in childhood. Things like walking or otherwise getting around the home, feeding, as in being able to get food from the plate into your mouth, dressing, as in selecting appropriate clothes for the weather and occasion and putting them on, grooming, which means adequately managing your personal appearance, such as your hair, makeup, or shaving, and then toileting, which means getting to and from the toilet, using it appropriately, and cleaning oneself. There's also bathing, which means washing one's face and body in the bath or shower. Now, when it comes to a condition such as Alzheimer's and other forms of dementia, ADLs do eventually get significantly affected by dementia, but usually that happens later than the IADLs. So for instance, a person with Alzheimer's disease will eventually lose the ability to walk and talk, but that's usually only after many years of symptoms. Now, that's not to say that we don't see ADL difficulties in early Alzheimer's, because we do. In particular, when people become forgetful, they often start neglecting their grooming, or they may make unusual dressing choices. There are also some people with Alzheimer's who get visual spatial difficulties very early on. This often makes it hard for them to figure out how to orient their clothes and put them on. So that's a group where we might see dressing difficulties quite early. Otherwise, the thing about ADLs in later life is that older adults can easily have impairments due to physical health changes that are common even in people who aren't experiencing memory loss or thinking problems. So for instance, even though trouble with balance and walking and continence and bathing are all common in older adults with memory problems, and they are associated with early Alzheimer's, these are also problems that are just common in older adults who do not have Alzheimer's or another form of cognitive impairment. That said, if your parent has memory loss, I would absolutely recommend you check to see how they're doing with their ADLs. Chances are that early on, they'll need more support on the IADL side. But if they're having any issues with ADLs, it's important to know about that too. So in short, if your parent has been having memory or thinking problems, expect that to manifest by affecting IADLs in particular. It's especially common for us to see finances and driving affected very early on. However, since many older adults have difficulties with ADLs as well, you'll want to check for those too. Now, once you've identified where your parent is having trouble with ADLs or IADLs, you'll need to work on two things. One is making sure that the underlying cause of the problem has been identified. This usually requires medical evaluation. The other thing is that you'll want to look into arranging for some form of support, assistance, or supervision. These are both doable, but often require some research and persistence to make them happen. If you'd like to get help with this, I do have a free online workshop for families dealing with memory loss that covers this. It's got a focus on talking about safety issues in particular, But the method I teach in that free workshop can be used to help your parent with any type of IADL or ADL issue that comes up in your family. So I'll post a link to that workshop in the description of this video. Otherwise, for more on how to help your aging parent with memory loss or with anything else, please subscribe to the channel and stay tuned. I plan to be publishing more videos on this topic very soon. Thank you so much for being here and for all you're doing for your aging parent and older loved ones. Take care, and I look forward to seeing you again soon in the next episode of the Helping Older Parents video podcast.